New this morning, Governor Kotek has signed a bill into law that will prevent insurance companies from using Oregon's wildfire risk map as a reason to cancel policies or increase premiums. Fox Amel El joins us live this morning with more on how this came to be. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, this bill was created after Oregon homeowners started reporting that their insurance companies were refusing to renew their policies because of the risk of wildfires on their properties. Now, with this new law going into effect, those insurance companies won't be able to change their policy based off of the Oregon wildfire risk map. Now, as we know, wildfires have ravaged parts of the state for years, putting homeowners at risk of losing their homes and at one point their insurance policies. Looking to prevent premiums from going up or being refused insurance altogether, Senate Bill 82 was created and passed the Senate on March 21st and then the House on May 1st. It required insurance companies to be upfront about whether and how wildfire risk mitigation actions could impact their customers' underwriting and rates. Now required by law, that information has to be made available to the public. Oregon lawmakers discussed the bill in a public hearing early last month.
We don't want people heading for the hills in fear or anger the next time a map comes out. So this provision is more than window dressing. It's important. It helps our all hands on deck effort.
The bill also required insurance companies to allow their customers at least 2 years to fix what was damaged as a result of a wildfire that occurred when the governor invoked the Emergency Conflagration Act. Now that this bill has been signed into law, the Oregon Division of Financial Regulation says anyone having problems obtaining home or property coverage should first speak to their agent or insurance company. If after doing so the problem is still not resolved, the next step would be getting in contact with the representative from the Oregon Fair Plan. Reporting live, I'm at Good Day, Oregon.